and force companies to package their products in brown paper with absolutely no branding. Tuesday was World No Tobacco Day, and the 2009 law reduced smoking from 25% to 17%. And yet 44,000 South Africans still die every single year as a result of smoking. This morning we're joined in the Pretoria studios by JOE MAILA. He's the spokesperson for the Department of Health, to talk a little bit more about government's plans around smoking. Good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for your time, Joe.
Thank you very much, Leanne, and good morning to the viewers out there.
So in 2009, I mean, there was a huge outcry when it came to all of the laws around smoking and how tough we'd become on smoking. But seeing the figures dropping from 25% to 17%, it did work. So getting tougher, are you hoping it's going to drop that figure even more?
Well, we believe that it will indeed drop the figure even more, but also that the new smokers won't be enticed into starting smoking. So we believe that if we toughen these laws, we'll be able to save the country a lot in terms of the kind of diseases that people come with due to smoking and the number of people who are dying out of smoking.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the issue of plain packages, because this is one of the routes that we want to go. Do you really think that this is a way? Is this a global trend that we're seeing, that if there's less branding on the box, that it'll be less attractive for people to buy the cigarette?
Of course, I'm sure that you and I, when we buy whatever thing that we buy, we look at how attractive that thing is, and therefore we get to move towards buying that kind of a product. But we believe that if the cigarette packaging are such that there is no fancy branding, as it were, at this point in time, people won't be enticed into buying them and smoking them. But also above that, we think that if you put graphics that shows what conditions you will be, the costs of smoking that will be, it will be even more serious infective for people not to start to smoking. We believe that the plain packaging is the way to go, and as South Africa we are determined to go towards that route. It's just that as it stands right now, we needed to change the law first, the principal law, the tobacco control law, so that we must be able to put all these regulations in place. There are 5 things that we believe that after the law has been changed, we can be able to do. Number 1, we'll deal with the issue of plain packaging, as we say. Number 2, we'll also deal with the issues of e-cigarettes, because as you know that as things stands right now, the e-cigarettes are not regulated in a way that we had hoped that they will be. The display also will be something that we're going to be looking at, and the distance at which people can be smoking from. As you say that you'll put a thing called a smoking area, but you find that the smoking area is just too close, that when you, for example, when you leave the airport, you just get yourself into a smoke as just immediately as you go out of the door. So those are some of the things that we need to do. But also the vending machines. Yeah. We are saying that 18 years, but a vending machine has no somebody who can be able to say you are 18. You don't have to check that. You just put money in it and then the cigarette will come out. So those are some of the things that we just need to make sure that we tighten. So the idea to save this country
is almost to get rid of vending machines altogether, that you cannot buy a cigarette out of a vending machine. I mean, it is true. Nobody's guarding those. I mean, anybody can buy cigarettes from them.
Yeah, of course, we need to make sure that we deal with them completely, because otherwise young children, 18 downwards, can be able to just put money into the machine and get the cigarettes, and we are not solving the problem. When
we look at international cases, I mean, we're seeing now, I'm going back to the plain packaging law that we're wanting to bring about when it comes to cigarettes. I see that the UK, Northern Ireland, France, those 3 countries introduced that law now in May this year. Australia, in fact, introduced that about 3 years ago, and there was quite a dramatic drop in the amount of smokers and the amount of people taking up the habit due to that. So if we have to look at a time frame, when do you think this is going to happen, that this plain packaging will come about?
Well, as I'm saying that the issue is that we had to make sure that we change the principal law first. And as you had seen that Parliament had a very shorter year due to probably the issue of elections this year. But as soon as we go back into Parliament, we'll then push that law so that it must be debated properly, and then it is out there. And in that respect, we'll be able to put all these regulations together. So as soon as next year, we believe that that will be done.
Yeah. Let's talk about e-cigarettes, because, I mean, a lot of people, I suppose, have, the amount of people that I have sort of seen that have said, all right, well, you know what, I'm going to stop smoking, but I'm now going to have e-cigarettes. And they smoke them everywhere. They're smoking them in restaurants, at their desks, all over the place. Is there a possibility that there are going to be regulations against e-cigarettes as well, that we won't be able to freely smoke them as people are right now?
Well, we are going to do that. As you know that as the law stands, there's nothing that is preventing people from using them. And there are people who are arguing that they do not have nicotine, yet some of them do have nicotine. So we need to make sure that we deal with the issue of e-cigarettes once and for all, because otherwise it creates a problem that it must be us. The onus is on us to check whether this one has nicotine or it does not have nicotine. We don't think that is the way to go, but rather to say that we needed to change the law and make sure that we strengthen it such that we are regulating also e-cigarettes, as it were. Yeah. They are as dangerous as it is.
I know that there's a lot of concern, and obviously with the good comes bad, and there are many companies that are citing job losses as a huge result of implementing some of these stricter laws coming in. Does that concern you?
Well, we are concerned about the health of this nation, and therefore if there is anything that we need to do as the Department of Health, it is our responsibility to make sure that we put systems in place to prevent diseases. And if one of them is to make sure that we deal with the issue of cigarettes, we will do that. And other people are arguing that cigarette companies are bringing a lot of money in terms of a tax and things like that, but they forget that on the same breath there are a number of things that are happening in terms of money getting out of the state due to hospitalization and many things like that, the problems that comes with the issue of smoking. So we need to make sure that we not just only look at one side of it, but to look at it under general, and therefore we think that it is the way to go, that we need to make sure that we deal with the issues of prevention, because we believe prevention is better than cure.
Just one, I've got you here, and on a final closing note, I mean, we see your stance on tobacco. What about alcohol? Because that's another thorny issue, and I know that's something that we are wanting to get around, is the banning of all forms of alcohol. Is this something, a reality that we're going to be seeing in the short term?
Well, it is something that is being discussed within government, and there is an interministerial committee that is put in place to look into those kind of things. And there is a lot of a discussion that is still going on in government, and we believe that will go towards that direction. But as to the kind of decision that has been taken at this point in time, as I'm saying, that is something that has been looked at closely by government. And as soon as the decision has been made, we'll be able to make it public.
Let's leave it there. Thank you so much for talking to us here on the program. JOE MAILA, he's the spokesperson for the Department of Health, talking to us about government's laws and tightening its laws on tobacco, and now wanting to introduce plain packaged cigarette boxes with absolutely no branding on whatsoever, but still having health warnings and dramatic photographs to try and stop people from smoking. Write to us. We'd love to hear from you. Do you think that'll work?